Hello and welcome to the program. I am Ogechukwu Ukekwe. The Bauchi State Government has taken a significant step towards improving immunization coverage by creating a dedicated budget line for routine immunization in 2025. This move aims to address the issue of zero-dose cases in the state. Executive Chairman of the Bauchi State Primary Healthcare Development Board, Rewan Mohammed, announced this development while receiving members of the Committee of Practice Premium Hub in Bauchi. He emphasized the need for a budget line to tackle zero-dose situation and strengthen accountability mechanisms for universal health coverage. The state government has allocated 870 million to the 2025 budget as a breakfast fund for immunization, which will be fully funded by the state government according to the Memorandum of Understanding. The Federal Ministry of Health and the Nigerian Center for Disease Control and Prevention have designed a health declaration form for international passengers to guide against the surging new strains of monkeypox in African countries from spreading to Nigeria. The new variants of monkeypox started ravaging African countries, especially DR Congo. Monkeypox is an infectious disease that can occur in human and other animals. Symptoms include a rash that forms blisters and then crossed over fever and swollen lump nodes. At least 16 countries of the continent's 55 nations have been hit by the disease, according to the African CDC. Let's go on a short break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. In Uyo, Akwa Ibom, Nigeria, a personal tragic sparked a life-saving movement, Itoro Usoro, a young Nigerian who lost his mother to cervical cancer, prompting him to lead the Help the Women campaign, a crusade to raise awareness and facilitate screening for women. Since its inception in 2021, the campaign has reached an impressive 30,000 women, both online and offline, and screened women, potentially saving countries' lives. The campaign's impact extends beyond local boundaries as its initiative in its tireless efforts joined the successful advocates that convinced the federal government to incorporate into the National Immunization Program the HPV vaccines to build the immunity of women against the disease. This milestone ensured that thousands of girls and women will be promoted from the devastating effects of cervical cancer. With me is Unguvu Change Leader from Unguvu Collective, Itoro Usoro, who launched the Stop Cervical Cancer and Include HPV Vaccination in the National Immunization Program initiative. Thank you for joining me on the program, sir. So what inspired this Stop Cervical Cancer initiative and what are its main objectives?
Thank you so much for having me, and of course, I'd like to thank Nguvu Collective who has made this possible. Okay, what actually inspired this whole initiative was, being face to face with my mom, who happened to be infected by the virus, and I saw her go through pains, and I was unable to help at that point. Virtually most nights, I get to see her on the floor, cry, and there was no help. At the end of the day, I lost her. That was what prompted my researching and doing a deeper investigation into this particular issue. And of course, I discovered that this is actually a menace in our society, and so many people do not know about it. Take, for example, my mom was not an illiterate. She was already working with the government and she was exposed, but then she did not know about this. So I thought it wise to, reach out to individuals, to women mostly. And of course, I was shocked that let me say 80% of the women I come in contact with do not know about this. They do not hear about that. So it was that very issue that inspired the dream. And of course, we started pushing from there. And I want to thank God that so far we've been able to help quite some women who would have probably in future have been infected with cervical cancer. And of course, last year, the vaccine, which of course will play a very crucial role in preventing girls from having cervical cancer in future, was also rolled out. So these are some of the things we do, creating awareness and ensuring that women get to, first of all, know about this. And of course, also ensure that they take advantage of every platform they can have to get screened, to get vaccinated, and of course, at the end of the day, to take cervical cancer out of our society.
So can you elaborate on the decision like to focus on including the HPV vaccination in the national immunization program?
Okay, talking about that, since human papilloma virus, which is the HPV, is actually what causes cervical cancer. If it is prevented, if the girl children are immunized, then of course we would have taken a very great measure in tackling the issue. So talking about this, I, alongside several other stakeholders across the nation, you know, we we are, we push for it from the Federal Ministry of Health and Nigerian Cancer Society and primary healthcare agencies, so many of them. So we push for it because we know the moment the girl children are being immunized, we have reduced the burden, right? But of course, then there are also like the screenings for people who were unable to receive the vaccine. So what we do is personally and other stakeholders advocating, using platforms like Move Collective to also reach out to decision makers, engaging them and ensuring that these vaccines has been rolled out. In 2023, October precisely, the pilot phase was actually launched in Nigeria in 22 states. And of course, in May this year, the remaining states were also covered. Hopefully, we are looking at, the federal government is looking at bringing this as our routine immunization, where girl children can actually have this at the primary health care facilities without having to, pay for it.
So how does this initiative align with broader public health goals in Nigeria?
Okay, first of all, we are part of, them. So, like personally, I'm a member of the Nigerian Cancer Society, and we listen to what is discussed at that level. Then, secondly, as an organization, we understand that if we wait for government to actually do everything, they may not be able to cover, especially at the shortest possible time. So, what we do is to try to close up those gaps. For example, here in Akwa Ibom State, there are some areas you go to, and the primary healthcare facilities are not in use. Okay, people really use there. So sometimes you have to just strategically, reach out to people in those areas and ensure you're able to get them out. Or sometimes you take the information, the awareness, and probably the screening to where they are. Okay, so sometimes plans are rolled out like that. Federal government, definitely they have plans and they will want to do something. But let me not say most times, sometimes the timeline, and some areas are not covered. So that's where Help the Woman campaign comes in to actually, help to bridge that gap and reach out to people in those low and middle income areas.
So in the course of this program, what has been the key challenges in implementing the HPV vaccination within the national immunization program?
Okay, I would say misconception has been a great challenge. There are people, in some areas who do not believe in what we're talking about. And what breaks my heart more is when you see the supposedly elites in those areas who will, openly tell you that this does not work. And of course, they will preach to their followers in those regions and say all manner against the vaccine. This has a way of, making the people in those areas not to accept. So you have to do a whole lot of work, talking, consultation, and all that before they get to hear about that or listen to you. Then, secondly, manpower as a result of funding is also a challenge because sometimes you see you spend so much time trying to uh, convince them. You spend so much time trying to make them to be on the same page with you, and before you're able to cover, you're taking a whole lot of time. So before you can, let's say you have a scope of 3 months to do something like the last rollout that happened. It was an interval the federal government had given. So having all those obstacles has a way of making you not to meet up. So at that level, what would have really helped is having more manpower to be able to penetrate. But then you realize you need more funding, you need more resources to do that. So this also has stood out as a challenge. And the next thing is security. The areas you go, and of course, you have to ensure that your security is intact. You have to pay security agents to be there with you because in some areas, the youth, they do not understand what you're talking about, and they are telling you all manner. Some you're required to pay, some they say mobilize, and a whole lot. Yeah, but I just like to point out that through that manpower, security, and of course funding.
So how does the initiative plan to reach rural communities where cervical cancer rates might be higher?
Okay, yeah, thank you for that question. There's a plan on ground, and of course, we are not just planning to. We've actually done that in some areas, and we intend to extend that to other places. So basically, what we do is to deploy team members to those areas. Of course, do a background research, get to understand the people around there, do proper consultation, and of course, base because we can't really. It's possible to implement something in the south, and by the time to let's say the north, the same thing. Okay, so it's that conversation, understand the people in those areas. Then, based on their peculiarities, you're able to know what fits them. So the first thing we do is to research, understand our demography, and based on that, we reach out. So, but when we are reaching out, the first thing we get to do is to create the awareness, which is key. Okay, make them to understand what we're talking about, and we have different strategy in mobilization. Okay, there are some places you go to, you just have to align. What do they like? Entice them, get them you know, to follow you, try to blend, use their local dialects, interact with them, sometimes get interpreters, get their leaders who are there so that they can listen to you. So at that point, possibly you can do what, let's say the market day, you can decide to just anything, any peculiarities around there, we can use that, get their attention. And when once we have their attention, we draw them to the topic of the day, which is cervical cancer. And of course, sometimes you go past not just you go past cervical cancer, you check their BP, some other vital checks, give them healthcare products, just get them to be happy, and of course, eventually present cervical cancer talk and the screening if that provision was also made for such an area. So that's how we do when we reach out to people in this area. And another thing we do is we try to also have a local mobilization officer who comes from those areas. so that we keep in touch. So it's not something we just appear there once in a while, but it's consistent. Then we have a community event. We also try to go online. Thank God for the internet. Currently, I believe almost everywhere we have people who have internet. So we also try to create communities both online and offline where we get to interact and share ideas with them. So that's how we get, to mobilize them in those areas, educate them, create the awareness, and of course, eventually, the screening is carried out.
So how do you this initiative plans to address potential misinformation or vaccine hesitance among population?
Okay, the what works is actually um, church leaders, community leaders, because when you get to all those rural areas, they usually believe in their chiefs, their rulers. So the first thing we do is get these people in authorities, the leaders in those areas, to understand what we're talking about. Sometimes present them with real life, testimonials, like survivors of this issue, or people who had, who lost people as a result of this. They see the real life threat of this particular menace, get the leaders to see it with us, and at that level, most times it's the leaders that talks to them, gathers them, then we now eventually talk to them and of course get them screened.
So what role do educational campaigns play in in the success of this initiative?
Yeah, it's without the education, of course, the misconception prevails. Okay, so you have to educate them. And of course, education in this sense, like what we do, is not just reaching out to them via um, our community or via the people on our team. We try to incorporate the people from those communities, get them trained, get them to understand what we're talking about. And at that level, it's easier because while we are educating them, sometimes you cannot speak English language to some of those old women, and of course they will definitely misunderstand you. So you have to go down to the language that they will understand. So sometimes we go as far as printing flyers in their dialect, just to ensure that they understand what we're talking about. So using different educational tools, using town community leaders, using flyers where we transcribe to their dialect. We do all that just to ensure that they understand what we're talking about. So education is key in addressing the misconception of the HPV vaccine, because so many people out there feel that the vaccine will cause a whole lot of harm, something it will cause barrenness, something people will die from it. So we ensure that they are educated, and we ensure that we use the right mechanism and tools to actually uh, ensure understanding on their part. And that's what we've been doing. And so far, it's been amazing. It works.
So far, how would you rate the success of the HPV vaccination program? How would you measure or how would you evaluate it?
Okay. Speaking from my standpoint, I think it will be very insignificant from me to actually, address that, because this is a national issue. And I think a primary healthcare development agency, they have the data, they have the record, and should be able to address that. Okay, but from my end and from what we do, Natim, I want to say we've gotten a success rate of, I can score 70 to 80%.
So what would you say are the expected outcome of this initiative in the next 5 to 10 years?
Our goal is to kick cervical cancer out, and our approach is reaching out to the low and middle income areas of the nation where most persons do not have not even heard about what we're talking about. That's our primary goal, to kick it out in those areas, and then eventually we can come into the town. So in the next 5 to 10 years, we are looking at reducing cervical cancer to the barest minimum in Nigeria. It shouldn't be a menace. Currently, it is, but in the next 10 years, we're looking at it not being a menace as a result of the work we're going to put alongside other stakeholders to ensure cervical cancer is kicked out.
So how do you see this initiative influencing other countries or regions facing similar problems?
Yeah, definitely. Currently, I think in a way we have, because when we started, we did not look at anybody. We're not looking at, waiting for anybody to make this happen. We took the bull by the horn, and we went all out. And so far, we've had calls from not just Nigeria, from outside Nigeria. So I want to believe the steps we're taking already is challenging other people to do something, and we're excited about what we're doing. And of course, we're intentional, and we know that people are sane and people are also motivated to go all out. You don't have to wait for the government to fix everything. You don't have to wait for people to die. You don't have to wait for it to happen to you before you wake up. But of course, you could be challenged with the things we're doing, reaching out to over 30,000 people in the space of just 2 years. Uh, I think it's something amazing. And of course, from the calls we've gotten, both in Nigeria and outside Nigeria, I feel already we have done that. And of course, we don't intend to stop. We keep doing that, and we believe other people will also follow.
Well, Nguvu Change leader from Nguvu Collective, Itoro Isoro. Thank you for speaking with us on the program.
Thank you for.
And that's it on this episode of the program. Many thanks for watching. See you next time.